we got an engine here, and this is a 1941 Packard 356, and while the car I have is a 40, this is basically the same engine as far as I know, and kind of a lot of sludge in there. Cylinder head's off. It's been off for who knows how many years. I'm gonna say like probably more than 15. We're gonna take this apart and see what we can do to check it out, and it's eventually gonna get rebuilt and used in the 1940 Packard. So all right, I guess we can start. I'm going to set it down on the ground so it's not suspended from the forklift, and then start taking accessories and stuff off the intake and exhaust manifolds and the fuel pump, and maybe the balancer and timing cover as well. Just get it stripped down so I can then pull out the pistons and valves and the crank and all that. So one of the things I noticed about this is when I first took a glance at it, I thought the valves were bent. When you look, it's not parallel with the surface, but it's actually angled. They're angled to try and provide more flow to the cylinder. It'll probably increase the difficulty level on putting in guides if it needs it, and I don't know how I would get this block up on the seat and guide machine, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that yet, but I'll be doing something here. So, okay, this is I'm gonna start taking stuff off. Well, draining out the oil, lifted it up with the forklift, put an extra chain on there just for a little bit of redundancy and safety, I guess. But the oil's coming out. Doesn't look terrible, but it's funny that the pan is painted and the timing cover's painted. Who knows what they did in here? Anything could happen. Well, we're going to take the oil pan off, and this bell housing, however that comes off. Guess you got to take the bottom half off first, and then the clutch component. Well, geez, yeah, I don't know. Does the clutch just slide down and then? Well, we're gonna find out. I don't know. Never taken one of these apart before. Okay, this is like all 356s from what I've been reading. I don't know, don't have much experience, but this has 9 main caps on it. Some of the other engines in this series, like the 327 and the 288, only have 5 mains, and they say the 5 mains are good enough, and they have a lot of acreage for bearing surface area. So it's probably not really necessary to have 9 mains, but we got 9 mains, you know, 4 extra mains. I don't think it weighs a lot, but you know, I guess it adds extra support, so that's what we're going to stay with, as long as this block is good. Well, we're going to keep taking it apart. Got a nice big wide timing chain, and it's actually pretty tight, so that can probably be reused, not a problem, or without a problem anyway. Yeah, so bit by bit we're going to keep taking it apart. I'm going to lower this down and try to pick it up by the end, so I can stand it on the bell, because I don't think this engine's going to turn over until I get all the pistons out, because some of those bores, the pistons are, the aluminum's turning white. It's probably stuck in the bore, and it appears like this. Can't get the pressure plate and the flywheel off until you know, you have to turn it to get all the bolts, and then you know, probably take the flywheel off after that, and then the bell housing can come off. So we're going to stand it on the bell and get the rest of it apart. It's a big engine. I didn't really like standing underneath it. Didn't have to stand underneath it much, but having that extra chain gives a little bit more security. They're not going to all go at once, but if one goes, then the other one will hang it for a second, long enough for me to jump out of the way. Okay, here it is, standing up. I'm gonna leave the chain attached to the forklift, but I think it's relatively stable, and hopefully we can get all these pistons out of here without too much trouble. Yeah, I don't know if this will turn. I mean, the bores are smooth, but the pistons, they've been exposed to weather for quite a while. They might be stuck. Might take quite a bit of effort to get this to move, you know. I don't know. Maybe we could put a pipe wrench on it or something. I don't know. Don't really want to grip it that way. Well, you know what? We can probably pry on that ring gear, see if we can get it to turn that way. Boy, they like to grind that starter. It's definitely going to need a ring gear. You know how you change a ring gear? It's like changing the tire on a steam locomotive. Pry bar here. Oh, look at that, it does turn. It actually turns. I didn't think it was going to turn at all. Huh. Okay, well that makes things a little easier. Alright, well, might as well start at the top. Let's bring this top one around to bottom dead center. If I can get the best access to the bolts. Alright, here's number one, and it's kind of neat. They got little castle nuts with cotter pins. Boy, look at that's got to have a huge bearing in it. I mean, look at how tall that thing is there, or how wide the cap is on it. Wow. I wonder if Packard was the last one to put these cotter pins in. Somebody at the Packard factory. Long gone. You know what? I should check and see if these have any marks on them. Oh yeah, they do. What I'm talking about here is, if you look, you can see. It's kind of hard to see. You could see it on both of them, but right there and right there is both a number 1. So we know which side of the cap is forward, and so it doesn't get flipped around 180 when it's going back together. And hopefully they all have that. We're going to find out if they do, but I presume it does. Okay, well, let's keep going here. Wow, some heavy bolts. Nut and bolt. These will slide all the way out. Maybe. Huh. Well, there's the bearing. I wonder what the clearance is on it, because the bearing itself really doesn't look bad. You never know. Maybe we won't need new bearings. I don't know. Oh, sounds like we're hitting a ridge. No, we're not hitting a ridge. What are we hitting? I'm going to turn the screwdriver around and tap it with the handle. Not the best thing for this hammer. It's hung up on something. Oh, I see. Counterweight. Alright, so we can't if you look, these counterweights here these are bolt-on counterweights. To grind this crank, you got to remove all these counterweights. If everything looks as good as that, we won't need to grind it. Alright, so I have to bring the rod back in, seat it on the journal, and then I'll turn the engine around and it'll make it past the edge of that counterweight. Hey, let me show you what I'm seeing here. See, you can see, yeah, see that block up there that's sticking out? That's one of the counterweights, and the rod won't go past it. So, alright, okay, no big deal. Let's seat it on the journal and we'll turn it around. There we go. We could probably turn it with a big wrench here. The socket for that, which is 3/4. Let me grab a 3/4 ratchet. Well, I don't have a 3/4 ratchet. I do have a 1/2 to 3/4 adapter and a 1/2 inch ratchet. There we go. Now you can see this big counterweight coming out. Okay, I'll set that right there. And yeah, that piston's at top dead center. Wow, that's like, it feels like it's above the deck, but it could be like carbon on the piston, I'm feeling. Okay, got that pushed through a little bit. Now, boy, that rod just barely fits through there. Boy, that's a weird piston. Look at the skirt. It's got that split in it. Man, is that supposed to be that way? Well, maybe it is. Oh, that's what that sound was. Take a look on the floor. We have a broken ring. So if these guys are trying to put this back together to run, we got 2 pieces of a ring here. That wouldn't have worked very well. Oh, okay. Well, so I get the gist of it here. I'm going to keep taking this apart. Man, those are long rods. Look at that. Boy, people would love to put those in their small block Chevy. Alright. Man, nice rod too. It's hollow in the middle. It's got a pressure fed pin up here. It's got locking clips on a full, what is that, a full floating, I don't know if it's full floating or not. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Anyway, oh, I see why. All right. So that broken piston I have looks like it broke right along in here. You know, the skirt's not attached. It probably runs quiet, really quiet, but I don't know. I think I want to go with a more modern piston. Something that can't break off right here. I think that's what happened to the other block, because I got a coffee can full of some broken parts. There was a broken rod in there, and also the top half of a broken piston. So, you know, it kind of makes me think the piston went bad, and then the rod was flopping around and got broken. So, all right, I'll keep going with this, and I'll be back. all the pistons are out in this box, and the crank does need to be turned, and it does need bearings, and almost every piston that came out, the top ring was falling apart. Looking at this, it it could stand a little port work, you know. It's but surprisingly, it's on the intake, it's pretty smooth, and, you know, it might not be so bad. Just a little bit of cleanup, and that should probably be good enough for what we're gonna do. Let's see, I guess we'll pull out the cam next. I don't know what it's hitting. So I turned it over. Got all those lifters. Oh, well, whatever it was touching made it past. It's got tapered, well, not tapered, but the cam bearings are bigger from front to back. That's a long cam. I gotta find some place to put it. It's not gonna fall and get broken. I'm trying to take off this pressure plate and clutch. The flywheel eventually came out of the bottom of the block there, the way I had it standing up. Wasn't the most convenient way to do it, but it got it out. There was a ton of head studs to remove out of this block. Good thing I had air and a stud extractor tool. That would be just a ton of work to do by hand. Take a look. Taking the studs out. I threaded some of these back in part way. I'm trying to get the extractor or stud remover tool to break free off of it, and I guess I didn't really need to do that. Yeah, I got a big mess going on here. It's gonna take a little bit of cleanup. Anyway, the bell housing's off. It's just the block with the crank. Now I'm kind of thinking to get out my scale and weigh this, see what the block and crank weighs. I should have weighed the whole engine, but the head wasn't on it, so I mean, while they could be weighed separately, it wasn't there. But yeah, they said this is a heavy flywheel, and boy, are they right. That thing is heavy. Okay, well, let's lift this thing up with the scale and see what we got. There's the block with the crank, and here's the scale. We're at 4. Hard to see that there. It almost looks like just about 450, maybe 445 or so for the weight of this 356 with the crankshaft in it. I don't have any video removing the crank from the block. My machinist called me. He was a friend of mine, told me he's on his way, and I had to quickly get the crank out of the block because he was going to pick up the block to bring it back and get the machining work done to it. But it was a pretty simple thing. I guess we'll see what it looks like when it comes back. Excited. Got a lot of things to order for this car. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna get pistons from, and even bearings. Bearings seem to be a hurdle to cross, but we'll see. It's just starting to work on gathering parts now, so stay tuned.